Welcome along. You join us at Fujitsu World Tour London. The theme of this year's event is driving a digital future. The rapid evolution of new technology, new systems, new structures, new ecosystems, it's causing a few questions, isn't it? How do we deliver all of that digital transformation? The disruptive technologies are required, but how do we deliver all of that and provide value back to the business? How do we delight our customers? How do we positively impact society at large? Well, we've got your back to answer all those questions. We've gathered some of the smart minds at Fujitsu, and we're going to help you identify the right mix of partners, solutions and technologies to address all of those queries. Next, we're talking retail, and particularly we're going to look at the changing expectation of retail. In-store staff are retailers' biggest expense, but they're also their biggest asset. Are they being empowered enough though? Are we enabling them with the right technology, or are we just frustrating them? Hopefully, we'll also be able to look at how we define the tools that's going to take retail to the next level. There's also a topic we're going to touch on around in-store safety. This is quite an alarming stat that crime's on the increase, theft is on the increase, stores could be losing as much as £2,500 per store up and down the country, and some retailers are feeling threatened in the workplace. Well, to answer all of that, we've gathered Sahi and Nick Mays. Nick joins us from PAC, both familiar faces to viewers that watch this on social. Gosh, there's a lot to get through. Let's start with you, Jat. Why are retailers struggling to retain store staff currently? It's a growing problem, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We're seeing staff turnover go up, and with whatever happens with Brexit, we could actually see that worsen. I think that the real problem is that the shop floor staff are not really valued enough in most retailers. Their jobs have been essentially dumbed down, normally as to control cost. And so those sort of retailers, if you're going to work there, how long is anyone going to stay there? And that's my generation. I mean, if you start to go to Generation Z and people who've had their voice heard ever since they're 10 years old and doing their YouTube channels, it's not the sort of place they want to go and work, right, for very long. So there are retailers bucking the trend. People like Primark, a Fujitsu customer, they buck the trend. They have a really good staff retention. And the way they do that is they empower that shop floor. People on that shop floor have real say in Primark's business, in what they're selling, how they're selling. And, so I think it's really, that's what people want, right? People, psychologists who study this much more than I have will tell you what really motivates people is this level of actualization. Seeing your ideas out there, making a difference. And that's what retailers have to do. They have to drive that onto the shop floor. And God, does it need it, right?
I remember, Nick, we were talking in Munich, Fujitsu Forum on Forum TV. You were helping us go through the report that PAC and Fujitsu had released around Workplace 2025.
That's right.
I know we were looking to the future, but a lot of your findings was it needs to be happening now too, right?
That's absolutely right. So we were touching on topics like what makes workers really feel productive, what really makes them feel empowered. And there's many aspects to this, of course. I mean, as Jat says, being empowered to feel like what you're doing is making a difference at the store level in retail is clearly a huge factor. But we also looked at other factors like having the right work-life balance, having the right environment in place to drive wellness from the employee, to have the right technology tools in place which enable you to do your job. I mean, technology in many areas is holding people back from doing what they need to do. They can't get access to the data that they need at their fingertips. Security is holding them back because they have to go through too many layers of authentication. We looked at what's really important, and what we found was there are big gaps today in retail, but other sectors as well, between what people want to make them truly productive and what their employees are providing them with.
The theme of this year's event, driving a trusted future, we've got to talk safety in the workplace, because everyone has the right to feel safe in the workplace. How do we fix this within retail, Jack?
I think there's, retail is a public space, right? So it's going to reflect whatever's going on in society. So I think across society we're seeing increases in crime and violent crime at that. But I think retail as well, because millions of people do walk into that environment, could be a part of solving that issue and that problem. I think there's things we can do, definitely using technology to help employees feel safer in the workplace by having, we've got body-worn cameras, such as similar to what the police have, and just the fact that those were around discourage people from trying to do something, right? So there's lots of things we can do around that. But again, I think, retailers could be playing a bigger part in this themselves, right? I think, Nick, to steal a bit of your thunder, you mentioned some of the work Co-op were doing in their communities. Right. And I think that's fantastic, that a retailer is actually going there for social change. And, increasingly, I think retail generally has to realise it's always been about people, not products. And that's the people that work there, but also the people who walk through the door. And if you can serve them, rather than think about products, who knows what you could become, as a business? Because if Amazon thought about products, it would be a bookshop today, right? And it's not, because it didn't think about that. It thought more broadly about people. And in doing that, we can build great businesses, but we could also, have a say in a lot of the things that are troubling society at the moment.
You've rightly picked up, Nick, on the gap that exists within this enablement and productivity. What do we need to deliver to actually shorten or even fill that gap?
Yeah, well, I don't think technology itself is the answer on its own. I think what we need is a broader cultural change within the organisation in terms of how we look at the workplace experience for our staff. I think we need to look beyond the traditional performance measures that we've looked at for decades to take a much more broader, holistic view which touches on all aspects of working life, to understand what really makes an employee tick, what are their personal needs for them to feel truly productive, what are the technology tools that they need in place which matches their personal needs, because it's different for everyone. And I think historically organisations have tended to use the same old tired and tested measures to look at how productive their staff are, when the needs of the staff are changing all the time. I mean, our research found that younger workers see things like having really easy to use technology as being critical to making them feel productive in the workplace environment. They also want more time and resources to spend on developing their own projects, their own sort of innovation initiatives.
So there's an appetite to fix this problem, they're just not being empowered to go and do it.
Absolutely, and like I say, I mean, it's not just a case of we throw technology at the problem. It's a cultural change which has to go across all departments within the organisation, from HR through to the line of businesses, right up to the boardroom, to affect this transformation that we need, I think.
So it sounds like this is a big job for the CEO then. I mean, philosophy change in the boardroom, top-down approach. Until that changes, are we going to see change on the front line?
You're right, because essentially, the front line is the tip of the spear, right? So everything has to align behind it, and that is the CEO's job. It's those people who are seeing your customers every day. It's those people who are sensing what's happening in the market every day, who are able to do that. And so I think, that is this is the CEO's job now, is to really reimagine the business, because people ask about what trends and disruption, but all disruption ever really is, it's about someone else finding the truth before you did, right? They found some truth out there in the market before you did and acted on it. And so if you want to do that, who is closer to the truth than the people in your stores, who are seeing people every day? So if you want to be disruptive, those people need to be not just engaged in the conversation, they need to be leading it. And so, and that's what the CEO has to do. He has to redesign the whole business to be about this, essentially a search for a truth, and that changes everyone's roles.
While we've got you, Jack, I know you're passionate about the purpose of bricks and mortar retail outlets, and origins of retail. They can thrive and survive if they get the right technology in it. Some of that technology you and I have spoken about over the last couple of years is facial recognition. Mm-hmm. I've got to pick up on a video that's been breaking over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in America, 21st of May, picked up on some technology that perhaps isn't working as it should in America. The video suggests that a young African-American boy was wrongly identified as a criminal in a San Francisco Apple store, subjected to wrongful arrest. And the narrative is that the facial recognition is flawed and it shouldn't be used. What would you have to say to that?
I would, right, so I think it's all around facial recognition. Is got different methodologies on how you build it, right? So either you can go and design an algorithm yourself. Now, the moment a human being designs an algorithm, it has all of your biases in it, right? So if you think this is what faces look like, you basically base it on the faces you see around you, right? Which might be of a certain type and not another type. And this is actually where things like AI can do something really special, because AI can look at millions of faces of all different genders, all different colours and creeds, and actually it can pull out something far more truthful because it's got far more experience than any of us has. And so you're already seeing face recognition technology that is based on AI algorithms, which has many more points of recognition and is much more accurate. Because you're absolutely right. I mean, we work at Fujitsu, and so working in Japan and across Europe, we had that very same challenge with facial recognition. But it's all about training AI rather than human beings. We are full of biases.
So that goes back to the ethics and the trust within technology. There are segments on social addressing the importance of ethics behind AI. It'd be worth taking a look at that segment in context of Jat's comments. Usual question to wrap, gentlemen. There'll be a lot of retailers looking at this, as always, thinking, sage advice, where the heck do I start? If you've got one message for them, Jat, what would it be?
Oh, wow, where do you start? Well, I think, like I've said, what a retailer has to do now is get to the truth of the market. That's going to come from the edge. So what you need to do is redesign your organisation from being a command and control, centralised, pushing out what you think in the middle, to being a devolved leadership organisation like Inditex, like Primark, like Amazon, that is actually sensing the market and then using that to trigger change from the core to build new enabling infrastructure. This is a big transformation. If there was an easy answer out there, Debenhams wouldn't be where it is, right? That's a firm almost 200 years old, full of experts, full of great talent. But it's actually the structure of it that caused it to fail. And that's the structure that retailers need to fix. And that's what we at Fujitsu are now helping them do. We've got a plan for that.
Nick, what would your message for the boardroom be?
Yeah, I mean, to pick up on what Jat was saying, I agree, it's redesigning the business, but redesigning it in an agile way so you're going to be flexible enough to meet the huge changes which are coming on the horizon over the next 10 years. So creating that agile platform which will enable you to harness the power of things like AI as they come more and more into the mainstream, to enable you to support what's going to be a truly multi-generational workforce in a few years' time, from Gen Zs to the over 60s working side by side. You really need to start putting this flexible base in position now so you can stay relevant and competitive for the next 10 years and beyond.
Nick, Jat, fascinating as always. Thank you for stopping by. Promised you insight, didn't we? There's a fair bit there. Retail's still got a bit of work to do. It seems to be a recurring theme from the last sort of 18 months of doing these interviews, but there are success stories out there, and if you take on board the sage advice that we've brought you, you can thrive and survive. That's the key message from Fujitsu when it comes to retail. Plenty more insight still to come. By the time we finished here at Fujitsu World Tour this year, we would have brought you interviews around AI, blockchain, quantum, security, multi-cloud, innovation, operational excellence, workplace, a trusted future, connected world, public sector, transport, RPA and automation, and financial services, no less. Stick around, there's plenty more to come.